How do creative ads address societal challenges? That is such a big question, right? It's a really heavy question and a big responsibility for those of us in this room and those of us that work in this industry. Can creativity and advertising truly help to solve some of society's biggest problems? Oh, I've gone back by mistake. Didn't mean to do that. Can it actually solve societal problems? On its own, very unlikely. But can it have some sort of impact on a societal challenge? There's definitely a chance to do that. Let's take, for example, a societal challenge. This little circle in front of me for a second. As an industry, we're really, really good at raising awareness of a societal challenge, really shining a light on a societal challenge, maybe one that we are unaware of, that we bring to the forefront and bring to the awareness of consumers and audiences in general. Or maybe it's a societal challenge that we've known has existed for some time and finally has its limelight. So as an awareness job, we're very, very good at addressing through creativity and advertising to address societal challenges. Can we start having conversations about societal challenges, one-on-one, within peer groups, within our WhatsApp groups, as societal discourse? There is an opportunity for us to start doing that through creative and advertising. And it gets a little bit harder to be able to do that, but through a really good awareness job, we are able to start conversations around societal challenges. Can we really get people to start acting on societal challenges, whether that's sharing something or doing something or changing a policy in some way, to truly have a visceral impact on that specific societal challenges? Now that's obviously a little bit harder. And what I've just shown you there is essentially the funnel, the marketing funnel. Right, so in awareness, we do a fantastic job as an industry to address some of our biggest societal problems. And as we get further down, it's just a bit harder to get people to do something about it, especially to create actual change towards the industry. So the question above me can be quite overwhelming, especially for creatives who are in a room trying to solve society's biggest problems, right? But that's not the only problem that we are faced with. Some of the other problems we're faced with is that advertising saturation has reached an unprecedented level now. So in any given day, one person is seeing anywhere between 4,000 to 10,000 pieces of ads in a day from all sorts of angles in all areas of their lives. And that doesn't even include your work emails, your DMs, your WhatsApps, emails from school offices. We are absolutely inundated with information, and it's a lot. In addition to that, as marketers, the media landscape is overwhelming. We have more spaces to communicate than ever before. And so that, teamed with trying to fix our society's biggest problems, can be a really daunting task, right? And it can feel very, very heavy. But the way that I think that we should approach this, and I love approaching this problem, is to flip that on its head and look at it as an opportunity. So what if, because of advertising saturation, it actually means that we have an opportunity to be truly innovative than ever before? That's a really exciting proposition, right? And what about if that means that we can find truly unique ways to earn a place in people's lives, to truly earn a place in their hearts and their minds and their memories, so that not only are we gaining awareness for a societal challenge, but it's something that sticks with them for hopefully a lifetime and helps them to make tiny little actions that do contribute towards solving that societal challenge. So let's look at the creative brief for a second, a very simplified version as to how we approach creative briefs. So first of all, we start looking at a human problem. We'll really delve into that through research, insights, focus groups, really start to understand what the societal challenge is about. And we know that by the end of this brief, we want to have a very specific, measurable impact, that we know we can have a very strong KPI that shows some sort of reach or change or impact on the human problem. Now, this circle in the middle is a very exciting bit that I get to do, which is really think about expanding the question of what if we solve this human problem in all of these variety of ways. And this kind of what-if circle, it should technically look like a room full of Post-it notes. Notes everywhere, totally expanding the idea as much as you can, having no limits to what we can do through creativity. But I believe that true creative innovation actually comes from considering media placement within this circle at this moment. Because the problem we have at the moment with addressing societal changes through creative advertising is oftentimes it's done in a bit of a traditional linear way. So we'll come up with a really powerful piece of storytelling. Oftentimes it's a piece of video content, high quality, high craft. It really helps you to feel something in your soul. And then you'll have sort of sustained moments through paid and organic that will keep that message moving forward. But to truly have creative innovation and reconsider how we think about formats, we want to think about media planning while we're creatively ideating as well. So when we're thinking of big creative territories, we think of the entire buffet of creative and media placements that we have at our disposal to test and learn and truly have just a bit of fun with. We've got heavy subjects. Let's try and test and learn and see how we can really solve those issues. So I'm going to take you through some of my favorite examples from creative advertising over the last year or so that did exactly this. And some of these have gone under the radar. Some of them were very famous as well. But it's just to show that addressing societal challenges through creativity and advertising doesn't have to be big moments. They can be little things that are actually making societal changes in some way. So here's a what if. What if a person with Down syndrome becomes the main character? So where has that come from? Well, the human problem that we've uncovered here is that stereotypes and low expectations from people around people with Down syndrome actually significantly impacts their lives in a very visceral way. And we've uncovered that through knowing that through the community themselves and through focus groups. This takes us on to this piece of work, which I think a lot of people would have seen. It won 7 Lions. It got shortlisted for 5 more. It won countless many other awards. It was created by Italian organization Core Down, and the campaign is called Assume That I Can, So Maybe I Will. Now, a lot of us, if we're not in the community or have people with Down syndrome in our lives, we will have only seen this last summer, probably, right? About maybe 6 to 8 months ago, we would have seen it. That was a big launch moment. But what I find so interesting about this idea is this line, assume that I can, so maybe I will, was a tool that was given to the community for people with Down syndrome to be able to use to tell their stories on organic and paid social channels. So that was all happening actually about a year before the campaign went live last year. And what was so rich about that was that people with Down syndrome were able to use this line to be able to tell their story. Assume that I can't win a Grammy? I can. Assume that I can't be a bartender? I can. Assume that I can't ski? I can. And all of these really beautiful, rich stories were uncovered during this very community groundswell moment before the launch moment. That then informed the larger launch moment, which had a hell of a lot of paid behind it, as well as organic reach. And then the same line was then used to then sustain that moving forward. And so this is just a really simple way of showing how we can have a really big awareness moment for a cause that maybe a lot of us hadn't thought about, but now it's at the forefront of our mind, just through starting with community first and getting those stories. And what's really exciting and I think really lovely about this piece of work is that a lot of the stories that was from the social channels from the community then ended up within the launch ad and also featured those very people as well. So that's very beautiful. I'm going to share just a shortened clip of this. If you've not seen it, please do YouTube it and watch it. I'm going to just share the very last half of this video just to show you how impactful it was.
Will you serve me a margarita? So I drank a margarita. I assume that I can live on my own. So I live on my own. I assume that I can hit harder. So I hit harder. I assume that I can learn Shakespeare. So, what fools these mortals be? I learned fucking Shakespeare. You assume I can swear, right? I assume that I can do that job. That I can go to parties. That I can have sex. That I can be on stage. I assume that I can. So maybe I will.
Lovely. So I really do urge you to go and look at their social channels and their case study as well. So In the green box, we look at how this idea just flipped the switch a tiny bit to move it from a launch awareness campaign into a fully community-activated campaign. And with that, it received 150 million views in just the first week, and since then, countless more. And it uncovered thousands of unique community stories in which they can use for all future campaigns moving forward. Okay, here's another what if. What if we could convert any outdoor advertising to save us money on our shopping? So the human problem here is the cost of living crisis is at an all-time high, and inflation rates are still rising. It impacts our livelihoods, and that very much is a societal challenge, right? All of us are going shopping, and our bills are coming up way, way higher than they need to. And this really clever piece of work from Macro addresses this in a slightly different way, and this is a perfect example of considering media at the same time as creative ideation. So Macro created a tool called AdScan. And what they did is they piggybacked off the back of existing out-of-home advertising to use it as a tool to create discounts. So they created a tool using Google Cloud API, teamed with OpenAI, and when you scanned any out-of-home ad of a product that they sold in their store, it would generate a discount that then you could use on their e-commerce channels or in their store. What's so interesting about this piece of work is that the media budget that they would have used in another type of campaign was actually gifted to the consumer. So what happened is, in terms of the results, is where they could have used $1 million worth of media budget, they actually piggybacked off the back of $15.7 million worth of brands' media budget. And I think that's just such a clever way of using media and creativity to solve a societal challenge in actually quite a simple way. And so in the green box, we'll see the creative innovation here is that instead of creating a really huge awareness campaign for Macro as a brand, they created a tool for their consumers powered by AI to give them exactly what they wanted, which is just money off their shopping bills. Right, what if removing ads could save lives? So, I mean, that's some big stuff, right? That's the kind of stuff, the kind of work that we want to be doing. Ads can actually help to save lives. Here's a human problem or the societal challenge. So when you're in an emergency situation, someone is choking, someone is having a heart attack, and you're in that moment, you phone the emergency services, and you have, it could be anywhere from 30 to 60 minutes, depending on where you live, for them to arrive. And in that moment, it was discovered that a lot of people go to Google and YouTube to look up what to do. That was the first thing that you do, right? So what Pague Menos, a pharmaceutical company, did in Brazil was they created an initiative called No Ad. So they noticed, well, they looked at the community comments within YouTube, and they noticed that the videos that people would look up to save lives through, let's say, someone's choking, someone's having a heart attack, there would be an ad ahead of that. That could be 15 seconds long. That's critical time in a moment like that. This screen grab really makes me laugh because I love YouTube's reply to here. It's like, maybe you should try YouTube Premium. It's like, no, that's not what I need in this moment. What Pague Menos created was really phenomenal, I think, and so simple. They created something called the #NoAd initiative. What they did is they paid the creators who were creating those life-saving videos to remove their ads. Because that's essentially what the creators were doing. They were creating ads that they were receiving profit from the advertising. But what happened is that Pague Menos can't sustain that forever, right? That's not going to be sustainable for them as a brand. So what they did was they created an initiative to task those creators and many more to talk about the initiative, to talk about the fact that YouTube had these ads ahead of content that was really, really important. And what that then created was YouTube took notice, and they then decided to promote those specific ads instead of Pague Menos. So what Pague Menos had done is they had started the trend and they'd started the conversation and in the end helped to change a policy and put that responsibility back onto the platform as it should be. So another really clever way to think about media and creativity at the same time. So in the green box, we're going to see the creative innovation here is how about we just sponsor the ads and remove them? Instead of talking about pharmaceuticals and how we're saving lives in another way, let's save lives in a very actionable, visceral way. And the measurable impact here is there were 5 million media impressions, which is important. As a brand, it is good to ensure that we have a lift in our brand metrics so that we're not doing this under the radar entirely. Through the initiative, through creators speaking about it, we were able to see an uplift in brand metrics. But also the ultimate measurable impact is that YouTube changed their policy, and they then started to remove those ads from creators' videos as well. Lastly, what if a virtual character could change food eating habits and protect the planet? So virtual characters are, we've seen a huge rise of them on social media particularly. The societal and the human problem here is that food production is responsible for 1/4 of greenhouse gas emissions. Red meat is the worst offender here. Now, this is a project that I personally worked on while I was working at Meta, and the region that I worked on was with my Spanish colleagues. If there's any Spaniards in the room, yeah. Apparently, Spanish people eat a lot of meat, so it's pretty hard to try to get them to reduce that load. So it was a very interesting and meaty challenge, excuse the pun. But what we created was we partnered with WWF Spain to create a virtual character just to lighten the load a little bit. This virtual character was called Habichuela. She is made up of legumes. Habichuela is a translation of legumes. And the reason why she's made up of legumes is because the worst offender for greenhouse gases in Spain and around the world is red meat, and the least is actually legumes. So why not let's create a character that really captures people's attention? What we did with this campaign was, first of all, we decided to test it across WWF Spain's BAU content. So that means their regular content that was telling them a similar message, tested alongside Habichuela, just to see how she would fare. Habichuela took over WWF Spain's Instagram channels. She used Reels, Stories. We even created a DM channel for her. So you could opt in to receive recurring direct messages on Instagram from Habichuela regularly, just to tell you simple swaps that you can add into your life. So it wasn't get rid of meat altogether. It was, why don't you try just swapping this for this? Why don't you try eating something like this one day instead of something like this? So very easy, simple swaps. And she would just drop into your DMs regularly just to remind you. A very fun project. So the creative innovation in terms of the format change here is that we treated Habichuela and the project through innovation with Instagram and Facebook messaging. That's something that wasn't really done within the category. But the impact here was that we had a 3.7-point lift in ad recall, which is considerably higher than the benchmark for this category. But the bit that really excites me is that there was a 4.5-point lift in reported action, which meant that 92,000 people said that they would change their eating habits, thanks to our lovely Habichuela. So that's just a little bit of a test that we did at Meta, that, just through that learning alone, creating a case study that was then able to be shared beyond, just to give people a bit of inspiration on how to rethink formats on how to address societal challenges. So those are 4 of some of my favorite creative campaigns from the last year or 2. But what's super, super exciting and what makes me want to get out of bed every morning is that those 4 are just 4 of absolutely countless ways and formations to truly earn a place in people's very busy, multifaceted lives. I think the very exciting thing about that, and I think a total privilege, is it's our job to find them. Thank you so much.